Hi everyone. So today's video is going to be a topic where it's very close to my heart, living a fulfilling life. And I really want to talk about this because I've been thinking a lot about how this affects people, whether it's positive or negative. I also want to share a little bit about my past experiences dealing with things that can get me quite emotional. It's because the people around me, I can also see how there are moments when emotions really get the best out of them. And therefore, I feel this deep desire of wanting to share my thoughts, my truth at least, and how when I see certain situations and when I know that emotions are involved, how would I do it differently? And so hopefully this video would enlighten and help some of you out there. And maybe, you know, for those of you who actually have different perspective from watching my video, please share with me because this is a way for me to learn as well. So emotions are powerful. Obviously, in today's world, it is not perceived to be something very positive, especially when people use statements like, oh, you're too emotional. Why are you so sensitive? Why do you feel this way? So, the thing is, human beings are designed, we are built to feel, to have emotions for very specific reasons. Our ancestors clearly use emotions. They're very in tune with certain things that happen and then what kind of emotions they feel for it, and then they take actions accordingly. But of course, I'm not going to compare with what has happened in the past. I think today's video is really about us recognizing how having emotions, as much as it can bring us a lot of pain, as much as it can sometimes overpower our lives, it is to shift perspectives and see from a point of view how it can actually help us to become strong. So I want to deep dive into some scientific research that actually has empowered my thinking, knowing that, okay, there are times that I can be emotional, or maybe I recognize a certain emotion and what I can actually do about it when you are informed, when you update yourself with knowledge, and when you connect the dots, and when you try to understand things that you don't understand. This is how you gain this confidence of knowing that, okay, this thing that is happening, it is not always something out here to attack me. I don't have to have a negative reaction to it. And I can be very conscious of how I respond to it, not just a reaction. So at the end of the day, I think that if we can adopt this concept where emotions are actually there for us for greater purposes, we can ultimately then achieve some sort of peace and freedom. Let's start by understanding why emotions can sometimes feel overwhelming. According to a study, Dr. Lisa Barrett, she's a psychologist and neuroscientist. So what I have here in my notes is that emotions are not just reactions, but constructions of our brain based on experiences and perceptions. Ultimately, this means that we are in control of how we perceive things and how we alter our previous experiences. Meaning to say, although you have experienced an emotion based on something that has happened before, it doesn't mean that it's going to give you the same result. It really depends on your perception. So, for example, when I was in college, I was assigned to do a presentation in front of the class about a topic that I wasn't very fond of. The emotion that I felt at that point of time was just disgust, fear, nervousness, anxiety, and I just didn't feel good, right? It was like angry, sadness, disappointment all mixed into one. It was like a bit of wrath too. I just didn't want to do it, to the point that my only reaction was to manipulate the rest of my classmates to also not do this assignment so that I don't have to do it. Because of that emotion, I think fast forward when I went into my working life as a young adult or late 20s, this feeling would always be there whenever I need to do public speaking. Whenever I need to stand in front of everyone trying to talk about something, I will always get that same feeling where it's like, oh, I don't like this feeling. It's making me very anxious, or what if I say the wrong thing? Even though I'm so passionate about a topic or so confident about it, it's still that same feeling. I wired my brain into thinking that this emotion that I felt is the only way that I can feel it. It's the only emotion that I can get out from it, and it's the only way that I can perceive it. And that's why this negative emotion will always arise whenever I am being placed in a similar situation. So ever since then, after understanding how our brain works, emotions, and so on, I did a lot of self development, psychology, and then I quickly realized that the more I try to run away from that emotion, the more I try to have resistance or like a negative perception of that emotion, the stronger it becomes. And for some reason, my career, the things that I do, involves and requires me to always be facing people, talking, speaking in public. And then I quickly realized that actually you can be your greatest strength. How we feel deeply is intertwined with how we think and how we perceive the world around us. This means that we have way more control of our emotions, and it is not just that instant thing where you're like, oh, somebody did something and then you snap. That is you being unconscious. That is you being just reactive. Having this power is where when you instantly feel it, you recognize it as, okay, it's just a signal. It's trying to make me feel something. I know that I'm feeling this. But is this how I'm going to see it? We have way more control over our emotions than what we think. This is what Dr. Barrett's theory is about from the study. This is still a topic that is being debated. Do you think that we feel something first, or do we think about something first? This topic is very complex, and based on research and what I've read is that it is still something that is debated in psychology and neuroscience, whether a feeling comes first or a thought comes first. I think that it's always the thoughts that comes first. Only then we have that emotion. So for example, if I link it back to my college experience, when I was given the assignment to do this public speaking, or it's required for me to stand in front of everyone to talk about that topic that I'm not familiar with, or maybe I just see it as I don't want to look like a failure in front of everyone, therefore I have such negative reaction to it. So it's at the end of the day, it's your ego, it's about yourself, right? Imagine at that point of time, my thoughts were different. Never ever think about the fact that people are going to judge me, right? Then I wouldn't have all these thoughts in my head that is making me feel like I'm angry, I'm upset because I don't want to do this. If I really look back and reflected, it is more of my thoughts that I didn't control. Therefore, it impacted my emotion. And then with that emotion, I dictated my actions, which is I refuse to do that presentation. Okay, so if you want to know what happened at the end, is that I did go in front of the class and I did the presentation, but I didn't finish it. I think it was about 2 or 3 minutes into the presentation. I look at the lecturer in the class and just say that I can't do it because it was in my head. It is about changing our narratives and the perspective on how we see why this is happening to us. How emotions are made. So there's another fascinating study that highlights this concept called the broaden and build. This is a theory where it suggests that the more positive emotions that you have, the more exploratory, the more you actually have of it. It expands our awareness and introduces us to a lot of novelty experiences that is going to bring more positive emotions. So it is the broaden and build theory. This is actually introduced to people who want to build resilience and wanting to acquire new skills. When you are in that curious mind, you are exploratory and experimental, you are in the state where you're more open. Therefore, when you're more open, naturally, you will have more positive emotions. Very quickly, I've learned quite a bit from doing research on the broaden and build effect. Having awareness is where you can empower yourself to master your emotions. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson found that in the broaden effect, this is when you experience positive emotions people tend to see more possibilities. They think more creatively, they have more new ideas, and they are more open to experiences. So this broaden perspective, the more you are aware of it, the more you cultivate it. Obviously, it enhances your cognitive abilities. So the way you make decisions, the way you're very conscious about your actions, the way you do introspection, which is self-reflection. And then obviously this helps to increase your problem solving skills, which is absolutely necessary in today's life, and help us to improve our social interaction. You need to feel good in order to go to an event and be like the social butterfly. If you don't feel good, what's the point of going? In the Big Five personality, it is suggested that people who are higher in extroversion and higher in openness, if I'm not mistaken, has more positive emotion and definitely feels more happiness. Broaden effect means that the moment you feel joy, you will try to extend it even further, being very grateful about the fact that you feel joyful. Sometimes we're having such good times with our friend, or maybe it's something so simple. Finally, I get to see a friend that I didn't see for a very long time, and we're just having some casual dinner, nothing fancy, but we are so grateful. But it is things like that that we have no awareness over. We don't appreciate the little things in life. We are unable to broaden our positive emotion. Okay, now let's talk about the build effect. So once you've broadened your positive emotion, how do you further build that positive effect? For example, our physical health is extremely important. And then intellectually, if we are always very complacent, don't want to learn new things, okay, this is where it becomes a bit debatable. People will tell me that I don't want to learn new things because I don't want to take on more responsibilities. People don't realize that as human beings, we are built to have progression. We are built to have hormones like dopamine. I think especially dopamine is that sense of reward. It's the sense of you doing something difficult and then overcoming it. It's that hormones that is built to us that makes us have more positive emotions. And so if you're that kind of person that says, I'm happy with the things are, okay, now don't confuse being grateful with being complacent. They're completely different things. I think that's a different topic for another day. So what I'm trying to say is the physical aspect that you take care of, which is your health, is one thing that's going to help you build more positive emotion. The other is your intellectual health, which is how are you learning new things and expanding your cognitive ability so that whenever life comes your way, when things are difficult, you are prepared. You have the energy inside of you to overcome it. And this is going to help you to generate more positive emotions. And then obviously social and psychological aspect of things. So social means linking back to what I've mentioned earlier with the Big Five personality theory, where if you're higher in extroversion, if you have strong relationship, you have people around you that you're inspired by, it's always supporting you. You have a social network that is always supporting you, challenging you, but supporting you. I don't see how you're not growing. Finally, psychological benefit is increased resilience, coping skills. Now, I want to talk about 3 tips that you can take away from this video to master your emotions and hopefully feel free. This is something that all the gurus out there that is into mental health would say, and I didn't really believe in it, but I was wrong, right? So there's a study from Harvard Medical School where they found that mindful meditation helps a lot to reduce anxiety and emotional reactivity. So it means that people who constantly try to schedule in this practice where it would take maybe 5 to 10 minutes when things get chaotic around the day, they would isolate themselves for 5 minutes and really taking time to absorb all the beauty and the nature around you. Stillness, listening to music that is calm, that gives you serenity. It really tunes a lot of the noise in your head. Practicing mindfulness, the key is when you are able to observe your thoughts or your emotions without making any judgments. This is when you reach the ultimate state of freedom because you know that the feeling is there. You don't put yourself with the feeling. You're able to observe it as a separate entity and say, okay, I'm feeling angry, but it doesn't mean that I need to react to it. There's a famous quote that I'm super inspired by. The man who blames others has a long way to go. The man who blames himself is halfway there. The man who blames no one has already arrived. I think this is where you have reached a stage where you have complete mindfulness. You know that whatever is happening for you, and you don't try to shift negative energy, sadness, grief, anger towards why this is happening. I know it's easier said than done. Believe me, I think the reason why I'm doing all these videos is also like I'm trying to train myself to be, really into this, to really master this as well. I think we're all in that journey. So I believe that with repetition, with a lot of conscious practice, we can definitely get there. Again, it goes back to the study that I shared with you earlier on about the fact that every emotions that we feel is our brain takes it from our past experiences, and it is up to us to change the narrative. Something about mindfulness that you can add on is that one of the greatest advice that was given by a close friend was this question: did you breathe properly today? Have you done any breath work lately? Sometimes the best advice that you can give someone when they are really emotional is, okay, just breathe. Because that's what we forget to do when we are having negative emotions. Something that I think has helped me a lot is actually the box breathing technique. I don't know if it's still called the box or it's the 4 box. I'm so appreciative of this technique because it's literally where you try to visualize a square, a box in front of you. So what the box breathing technique is, as you breathe in, you will count from 1 to 4, outlining the box. When you reach the point where you need to draw another line to obviously outline the box, that is when you exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I'm gonna attempt to try and get you to do it. First is okay. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. So how do you see how I'm drawing the box? At first it was strange and it was a little bit suffocating because you had to hold in your breath for that count of 4. But I must say, after you do it like 2 to 3 times, you feel really still and relaxed. This is how I like juggle my busy day sometimes when I have done too many meetings and sometimes it's just too overwhelming. A simple box breathing technique really helps. Okay, tip number 2. Reframe negative thoughts. I think this is something that they introduce like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So what you think about the situation will shape how you feel. By challenging that thought, you will then reframe the way you should perceive it and ultimately influence the way you feel. So one practical tip that you can take away is that next time you catch yourself in a negative thought spiral where you're like, oh no, everything is going bad. Just interrupt the thought by challenging it with questions such as, is this really true? Is this helping me to feel better? What can I think instead that is more constructive, that can help me to move forward? Clearly, spiraling yourself with all these negative emotions is honestly, I don't blame you for doing that, but it is a coping mechanism of like you trying to just further validate the fact that you are useless, that um, you don't deserve to feel happiness, that, all these things that you shouldn't be feeling. You're just putting yourself in that self-sabotage stage because this is what your brain used to know. Again, it is linking back to our past experiences. Therefore, it is just a coping mechanism, but you are in charge of disrupting this coping mechanism. If you can think of all the negative thoughts, why can't you think of all the positive thoughts? Again, it's easier said than done, but trust me, the more you try to challenge it, the more your body is going to respond to it. This is essentially like going to the gym to exercise. You don't just go one day to the gym and lift weights and then you're going to instantly get biceps the second day. Just remember that anything that is not going to come easy. But through practice, you will definitely achieve it. It's something that people still don't logically get. Like, they do it one time, they do it second time, they instantly think that it's going to be result and then they get demoralized and then they stop. Really just snap yourself out of situations like this, because if you're a loser, you give up. Some examples about this is those self-sabotage tendencies where whenever something good happens, you will become that person that will think of something bad. Oh, this is too good to be true. Oh, this person is so nice to me. So sometimes when positive things happen, in order to, again, going back to the theory, broaden and build, when you have a positive emotion, you're supposed to then fully immerse yourself into it and then try to expand yourself to build more of it. This is where you vibrate at a higher frequency. When you vibrate at a higher frequency, whatever that you attract and the energy that is around you, again, the world responds to the energy that you give out. So tip number 3 is cultivate positive emotions. So this goes back to Dr. Fredrick's Broaden and Build theory. Engage in activities that you enjoy, that helps you to be expanded, that helps you to be explorative. This could be anything from really prioritizing and being disciplined with things that actually makes you feel recharged. So for example, if spending time with your loved ones or your family, something very important to you, you will not compromise and make sure that even though at work you are a very busy person, you would find that slot in your entire week to accommodate that, because that is your life satisfaction. So don't compromise on activities that actually bring you joy and satisfaction. As long as you're conscious of that, you don't do it too much and it doesn't strip you away from feeling true satisfaction, like fulfilled, then why not? It could also be pursuing a hobby, or maybe you scroll through and then you see that, oh, people doing Pilates, people learning how to dance. You've always been very drawn to it, but then you truly deep inside actually want to try it. When you actually try it, when you have a hobby, you'll be surprised how this can actually help you to build more positive emotion, because you're doing the things that you love and you're learning something new. Or the most simple, the one that I always go for a simple walk in the nature. This is something that we really miss out as people living in the urban jungle, where we are constantly surrounded by that, by things that are concrete, industrial. In today's time, if you are the person that is super modernized and you are losing touch with what it feels like to be walking in a garden, being surrounded by trees, or with bare feet stepping into the ground, I think it's time for you to bring it back. For example, from Mondays to Fridays, I am super busy. Sometimes I have days where things become unpredictable and I'll end up having a lot of meetings that are not scheduled. But on weekends, I'm really strict with myself and with other people. The people who are close to me know that I have certain boundaries and I don't fear communicating that. I really prioritize my weekends to do creative work. Sometimes it's just more work, but I try my very best to weave in creativity. Anyways, guys, mastering our emotions is not a destination. It is a journey. As long as we are alive, as long as we have a brain, we will always be feeling emotion. But instead of letting your emotions overpower you, we are greater than that. We are actually in charge of our emotions. It's about being aware, making conscious choices, and creating a life that feels free and fulfilling. As much as I like to remind you, I also always remind myself that we all have the power to shape our emotional landscape. If you found this video useful, please thumbs up, please share some comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.